Hi, Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone here.
When will you understand that I am a person and not a thing?
Look it up.
Do something else. Do my eyebrows.
Better to say, am I being true to myself? And is this what I want to say? And have I expressed myself the way I want to express myself? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Hi, this is Anthony Rodriguez, and you're listening to MLVC, the Madonna Podcast.
Hey guys, it's Tony.
And hey everybody, this is Stefan. Thanks for joining us for another episode of MLVC, the Madonna Podcast, your place for all things Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone. And as you just heard today on the show, we are joined by Anthony Rodriguez, who had the distinct honor of dancing in Madonna's Drowned World Tour. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hi, excited to be here.
Antonio, welcome to the show.
How is everything on your end, Anthony? How's 2021 treating you?
It's not bad, actually. 2020 was, it was what it was, but I am in some strange way, I don't know, there might be others, but for me, I appreciate the time that I got to spend, with myself, because I'm alone, living alone, and it's, I really appreciated the time that I had.
You're not alone, though. You've got that beautiful Madonna montage hanging behind you. I can see. What's on that wall? Walk us through that. I see. Is that a T-shirt?
I sat here purposely. I don't always sit here.
Thank you.
Zoom stuff happening, but I sat here purposely. So this is like all the stuff that I got from the tour, like pictures, and then there's a T-shirt. I had all the band members, the dancers. Madonna signed it, and then I just got a picture of me when I did What It Feels Like for a Girl, which was that 2 nights that I did it. Mm-hmm. And then Em and I both love that. I think you guys posted it recently, that picture.
Yes, we did. Oh my God. That picture that from, what was that, when she was doing the Martha Graham homage?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And she loves that picture herself. So when I asked her to sign it, she was like, this is my favorite picture.
Ooh.
And then on the corner of it, I have Lourdes signed it when she was young.
Oh.
And so a friend of mine just said, give me all your, like, what would you like to, just some of your favorite shots and experiences from this. So I just took the covers of the albums that I wanted on it. And my friend used to work at Elektra Records. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what it was going to be. And then in the mail came this huge...
No, it's beautiful. Just for all of our listeners who can't see it, it's this beautifully framed sort of like all these different album covers and a T-shirt. Well, I'll take a screen grab of, and we can pop it up on the Instagram.
All right. So before we get down to business, let's give Anthony a proper introduction. Anthony Rodriguez was born in the Boogie Down Bronx to Puerto Rican parents, and he attended Fiorello LaGuardia High School of Music and Performing Arts, also known as the Fame School, right, Anthony?
Yes.
Where he trained in the disciplines of flamenco, ballet, and modern dance, both as a performer and as a choreographer. He provided choreography for the Summer Jam concert series hosted by acclaimed New York City radio station Hot 97, as well as for performers such as Marc Anthony, Tito Puente, Little Louis Vega, Cyndi Lauper, Cuco Vulloy, and many more. Anthony's created staging for major New York City nightclubs, including Webster Hall, the Palladium, Sound Factory, Limelight, Avalon, and Joe's Pub, among others. He's danced for Ricky Martin, Prince, Jennifer Lopez, and he's worked under the personal tutelage of acclaimed director-choreographer Luca Tomasini.
Luca!
Also friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
Famed choreographers Tina Landon and Jamie King. Also, he's traveled on tour with Madonna, where he was the featured soloist for La Isla Bonita and the Drowned World Tour. He founded the La Santa Luz dance company with the goal of creating a Latin version of the world-renowned Alvin Ailey company. And over the years, LSL has performed at Lincoln Center, New Jersey Performing Arts Center, and several area colleges and universities, as well, also internationally. Anthony's also a singer. He's released a single called Boricua Lover, and he's launching his first Spanish debut of music and revealing himself under a new artistic name and sound as Antaeuz. Did I say that correctly?
In English, it's Antaeuz, and in Spanish, it's Antaeuz.
Okay,
in Spanish.
There you go. That's how you say it, guys.
Tony is our Spanish component of the podcast, so I let him handle any of the Spanish pronunciations because I would butcher it like there was no tomorrow. My Philly accent would just not be having it.
Before we say anything, No, I just want to say this first. I have to get it off my chest. So, one of the biggest thrills of my life was hearing Madonna scream my proper name, Antonio, Antonio, in the Drowned World Tour. And I'm happy that I'm speaking to the person responsible for that.
That wasn't, it was funny just to share quickly that she asked, she was like, what do I say during this part? Like, what should we do?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, jokingly, I was like, say my name. And it happened. And it was a success. It was fun.
It was
Did
great.
she say it every night or was it just for HBO?
Every night, because we kicked off in Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
That was like our opening night, and I was shitting in my pants because we're in Spain, and here I come, like this New Yorican from the Bronx, and to go to Spain and like do flamenco. So I was. It stood the same with that section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't sure because as she's toured, we've been able to Madonna fans go to multiple tours to see, multiple nights in multiple cities sometimes, and it's fun to be able to sort of see her, sometimes at the beginning of the run, and then catch up with her months later and see if how she's settled into the show and what's changed from the beginning. Are things looser? Are things more strict? Like with Madame X. I got to see her at the very beginning in Brooklyn, and she was very stuck to the script. But then by the time I saw her in December in Philadelphia, she had gone wildly off script, and it was very, very different, but still the same. She would still keep some of the same parts. But
right.
But anyway,
yeah, she did. I mean, she kept the Antonio part though, but she did change it. Like when we got to the States, like we did Miami, and she started saying Puerto Rico, like she started doing stuff like that, and they were not having it. Like the Cubans in Miami were like, no. And then she changed it. She was like, I'm not saying Puerto Rico again. So, anyway.
Well, so how did you get your start in dance? Let's go back in time to the young Anthony, and he wanted to be a dancer.
Yeah, my sister is hard of hearing, and she was taking classes at a young age, and I was always amazed, that she had a hearing aid, and she was the first introduction to dance for me. And then from there, I went to Helen Butler School of Dance where she was at, and I wanted to take tap. So I started with tap and jazz, and then like basic ballet. And then I joined the Boys and Girls Club because I met another dancer that lived in the same neighborhood I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the Boys and Girls Club together. And I once I got there, they allowed me to choreograph. They allowed me to be really expressive and experiment. And I started a dance company, like a dance troupe when you're young, a dance troupe, which changed into a dance company. And then at the same time, through all of that, I went to Ballet Hispanico. And that's where I learned flamenco. And I remember taking flamenco and saying to myself, what the hell am I going to do with this in my life?
It's like becoming an art history major in college. Like, what are you going to do with that after?
Right. I really didn't enjoy the classes. I'll admit it. It's 15, 16 years old. I'm standing there with my castanets, and I'm just learning the rhythms, and I'm learning sevillanas and all the basics for flamenco. But I didn't know that it was going to be what it was for sure. And then at the same time, I was in LaGuardia High School. And throughout the journey at a young age, I started getting opportunities to choreograph at a really young age. And I did a lot of work in the beginning for free because I just was like, I did have this little Madonna mentality that if I go to the clubs or if I do this, I'll get discovered,
Mm-hmm.
And it actually worked out.
Yeah.
I met people throughout the circuit, and I started getting booked and being asked but yeah, I'll stop there. But that was just that's how I started with dance.
Mm-hmm.
What were your favorite clubs to go to? I'm curious.
I was introduced to my first club was Sound Factory, which I should not have been in, where Junior Vasquez was DJing.
Oh my God.
And I walked into that experience literally because a friend of mine was like, I'm going to this club. You want to go? I was like, sure. I was like, I'm not supposed to, but I'll go. And I went, and I walked into what Sound Factory was. And then I saw extravaganzas. Well, now I didn't know at the time, but I saw people voguing and doing all this movement, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is where I'm supposed to be."
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, and then from that was my introduction to the nightlife of New York City at a young age. And as I was growing and going out, then I started doing performances at the old Café con Leche. I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone remembers that
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
At that, where Cabaret is or used to be the show.
Mm-hmm.
So at night it would turn into this club, and then I started doing stuff in the night scene, in the nightclubs.
So how did so basically you went from just a kid dancing at the club to becoming part of the scene. How did that lead you to recording your own music and working with DJs? And did any of that help you get to Madonna in any way?
In 1999, I started out singing when I was little. I was a little kid singing all Spanish music. I was singing menudo songs all the time.
Súbete a mi moto.
Yeah. And I did like all these menudo competitions, and I was winning, but like without any training, just like this natural little kid that just wanted to perform, and my parents were supportive. And then I stopped singing because my voice changed during puberty. So I gained a really big complex. My range dropped tremendously. So I just had this complex. And then in 1999, I started writing, and I did and recently I was watching home videos. I started writing original music, and I did a show at a school as a young artist, as a young performer in New York City. I was always creating my own opportunities.
Yeah.
So I kind of just reached out to a school, and they let me use their gymnasium to do like a small showcase. And then I started singing more in 1999, just like exploring. And then funny, I did the tour. I wrote a song called Everybody that Jonathan Peters remixed for me.
Oh, wow.
And then while I got on the tour, that was my first opportunity to really share with different audiences, because throughout the tour, I was blessed to have been booked for all like the after parties.
Oh, that's amazing.
You know, like so that was a cool opportunity and a cool side check, just to show up and then like perform my own songs. And then I watch those videos now and I'm like, oh, that was horrible. but I was on this ride and that opportunity. So that opened it made it seem more real, for me, because during this tour I was able to sing my own material and perform. And then after I got off, I was singing at a nightclub, and there was a production house in the audience, and they liked what I was doing, and they flew me to Sweden, and I recorded 14 songs in 2 weeks. I had never experienced being in the studio before like that, and to be able to go there as a new artist and write my own material and work with like a band, and it was just like such a cool opportunity for me. And I wrote with a bunch of Swedes. They wrote this song called Latina Lover, and I went in there and flipped it and called it Boricua Lover. That's my only writing credit on that song.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
and then I recorded Boricua Lover, but that was like, a few years after, the tour.
Oh, wow. So it's basically all your worlds came together at the same time. That's so cool. So, all right. So let's start talking about Drowned World then. Stefan, take us there.
Yeah, so as we all know, you had a big spotlight in the Drowned World tour, and how did that tour happen for you? What you were dancing, and how did you get to audition? What was the audition process like? We've heard some stories. We had your gal Marlene on the show, and she told us her side of that. What's your side?
It was an interesting time for me personally because I was broke. Completely broke, and I remember it was an open call because she hadn't toured for so many years.
Right.
So she basically did a cattle call to see who was out there, and you show up to this audition with about 2,000 people in New York, and they were outside. And the funny thing, the first thing I remember is getting on that line, and then whoever with the coordinator was like, "If you're just here to see her, go home. She's not coming." And like, people started leaving the line, but then the audition was a heavy process because you had to do, like, Mia Michaels was the choreographer for the audition, Jamie King, Alex,
Yeah.
So you had to get through all these phases, so, and then they had the specialties, they were like, who here can do specialties? That, I was like, me. So I was like flamenco. I was like flamenco guy. And then, but it was a tough audition. It was a few days or a day or two, and I didn't talk to anybody in the studio. And there were like New York dancers coming by, and they were like, "Oh, you're here? Forget it, we're leaving." And I'm like, "No, don't even." I wasn't even thinking that because I auditioned for the girly tour, and I had a huge complex about my size and my body, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see all the guys in the girly tour, obviously they're all like giving you, you know, body.
Yeah.
Muscle.
Muscle. So when I auditioned for this one, I was like, damn, I'm probably too small. But you don't know, you know, when you go to audition what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it through all of the other sections, and then that last day that she came in, you know, they called like the specialties to the room, and that was like Tamara, Tammy, and Jamal from New York. I think it was, and there were other people, but it was like a group of 10, and we did our stuff. And I remember she was like, "What song do you want to dance flamenco to?" And I was like, she was like, "How about music?" And I was like, "Sure." And you know, you're like in front of Madonna, and you're like, I have to dance like I'm gonna bleed this. Like I have to give her my all. So I just went full the fuck out. I just started doing zapateos, and the whole room was super excited. Like everybody started jumping, and she starts banging on the table where she was sitting, and I'm playing castanets. I don't even know if I was on the right time. I don't know the rhythm. I don't know. My hair was super curly, and I just was going off for my life. And then I did that, and then I waited a week because they were auditioning in LA, like another 2,000 or 3,000, and then they did the audition in LA. And at the time, like I said, I was completely broke, and I didn't have my cell phone went off, but I had like my office line, and I was a Sunday, and I knew they were starting on Monday, and I was like, fuck, I didn't even get the job. I went out drinking on Saturday. I got drunk. I was like, I didn't get this gig, whatever. And then Sunday morning, I'm coming home, and something made me call my office, and I'm glad I did. And it was, you know, it was Janita, her assistant at the time, and she was like, "Madonna's been looking for you. We can't find anybody else. We want you. You have to take the red eye." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I went from the airport to my hotel room to my first day of rehearsal.
Wow.
While you were hungover?
Yeah. I sobered up with the excitement.
I was gonna say, God bless. I was like, you pop some Alka-Seltzer, you chug some Gatorade, you get on that red eye, and you make it happen.
And so then you get there and you start rehearsals, and you meet Alex Magno and Marlene and Tamara, and tell us what that was like, and how long did it take you to just get acclimated and just forget about where you were and just do the job, you know?
Yeah, the first day, so I went straight from the airport, well, from my hotel there, and it was awkward for me that first day, because it was kind of like they started staging everyone, and like me and Tamara were like sitting on the side, you know, and I was just like, damn, this is like my first big gig, and I'm sitting like I'm not even dancing, so I was like upset.
Nobody puts Anthony in the corner.
that was just my like ego and shit, but then it was cool because then something different happened, because then M walked in, and I had no idea anything about the show. We just started rehearsing. We were doing Impressive Instant. And she walked in, and she was like, "Why are you sitting here?" And that was like my first, like, you know, and then I had to also remember, because she didn't know, and she still doesn't know, that like I really was a fan, you know, before. But I was fronting, you know, I was like, I was just like, hey. And then she
"Oh, hey, Madonna. Nice to see you."
Or when's the artist going to show up, you know?
Yeah.
And then she kind of just like pulled me to the side, and she opened this amazing book that had the entire layout of the show.
Wow, I want that.
And it was just beautiful. Everything was drawn. The Gaultier costumes were drawn. And then she turned the book, and she showed a guy with long hair with a Gaultier corset on. And she was like, "That's you." And I was like, okay. And she was like, "You have a solo in my show." And I was like, oh, shit. So that's how I found out. And that was my first day. And then, and then we just kept on with the creating of it.
So
her vision.
Who did you work with specifically on your solo moment?
That was amazing opportunity for me because I also was a band member,
Yeah.
and a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was super cool because she had this vision and this feeling because, she wanted that feeling of like, how you in Spain or even in Italy, sometimes you get on the table and you dance, whether it's flamenco or, so she wanted that feeling. And then, but the arrangement wasn't done yet. And it also was an important part for her because she had never done acoustic before. She had never done an acoustic set in any of the tours prior. So, and then she was she was playing the guitar. So it was like a really interesting and amazing process. We like stripped the track down. We did different versions. The cool thing for me as a dancer was that I got to like have like my own rehearsals with her. I spent so much time creating this piece. So first we worked on the arrangement. What was it going to sound like? Like my flamenco solo was like, in the beginning was almost like 7 to 8 minutes. And it was just like me dancing that long. And it was like, okay, this is a lot. Like, let's bring this down,
People collapse after that long.
I was sweating and upset that I was still going. And she was like, keep going, keep going. And then we just kind of came up with this amazing arrangement. And then it was, the next thing was like, well, then now how do we do this on stage? Like, what is going to be the visual? So then, there was moments where Alex did kind of come in and kind of try to do some, shapes and spaces and all this stuff. But she really wanted a raw essence, And like, there's so many funny stories because we went through so many versions. And, she, at the end of the day, she kind of was like, Anthony's only dancing. Nobody dance. I'm going to end it there because there were so many ideas and it was just too much. So
was the workshopping of that number and just in the tour in general, is the workshopping fun because it's super creative, because people are collaborating, and like, is that a joyous time for you as a dancer?
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to witness all of it as well. But that specific section was wonderful. I had never choreographed a flamenco solo. For myself, I'm not a flamenco choreographer. And I remember calling my flamenco teacher and being like, Yvonne, I have a freaking solo in the show. She was like, you got this. And I'm like, but she reminded me that it also was a pop concert.
Yeah.
And that changed everything for me. I wasn't going up there. It was a Madonna show. No, that's what it was. So it was. Was
the Madonna fan in you just like tripping out over the fact that you got to do that every night?
I was. And then it's funny because she was like, I have this song called Isla Bonita. And I was like, inside, I was like, yeah, I know that song. But she didn't think I knew the song. And then when I was younger, I had my flamenco teacher choreograph a piece for me too, La Isla Bonita. So I always wanted to see her do this kind of like really flamenco. I saw the version in the girly show, which I loved, but they kind of kept it with all of like these. I'm not being shady to anybody.
No, you're not.
No, of course not.
It's just like, there's these typical like these shapes that you expect from flamenco dancers and all this stuff, and we didn't want that. So kind of also what I did with the blend of it was kind of like give it a little bit of femininity, to the hip movement, to change it up, which I got read in Spain about. But anyway,
no, but you know what though. What's so great about that, I call it the Latin segment of Drowned World, is that up until that point, the show is very tight and very controlled, and it just seems from one, set to the next. But then when you get to the Latin section, it's almost as if everyone just like, it's also very choreographed, of course, but everyone kind of lets loose, and it becomes like the spiritual heart of the show. Wouldn't you agree?
It was like my solo. So I choreographed my solo. There's no, I was able to kind of do my own rhythms and stuff. So for me, it was fun because it was a freestyle at some points. So I was able, as the show grew with the audience, and we didn't know that the crowd was going to react the way they reacted at that solo. So in Spain, when that first reaction happened, it was like, okay, we hit the pocket.
Yeah.
The audience, the crowd is in it. They're screaming ole. They're just, especially in Spain, they started even doing the palmas, the flamenco clapping. And then I just kind of, oh shucks. When I talk about this, I get excited, so I lose myself. Sorry.
It's okay. No, but I
Well,
mean, you had to
so-
realize how important it was. I mean, maybe not at the moment, but afterward, how, like, for example, I saw this at Madison Square Garden, and then, I didn't know what to expect. And then all of a sudden, this whole segment of the show is like Latin, and all my favorite Madonna songs are like really turned on their head, and the dancing and everything. And it was just such an important moment for, Latin people watching Madonna. So I can understand how overwhelming it must have been for people in Spain to see that their culture, reflected on stage. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Did you have other favorite other than your solo, of course? Were there other numbers in the tour that you just loved performing every night?
I loved Frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Such
I
a great
loved
number.
doing it. I really loved doing that number. I loved Well, Frozen also had a special pass with me because when I was choreographing in New York City, Frozen came out and I did a piece. I choreographed a piece to it for Café con Leche one night, and the owner of the theater happened to be there and saw the show, and he said he had a party that Madonna was coming to if I would like to be like a pop-up performer. And I was like, absolutely. So
Sign me up.
yeah, so I went and I did Frozen. It was like right when the single came out. I think it's the Victor Calderón remix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that version. And I choreographed the piece and I did it. And she was in the audience and she called me over and she was like, "You were freaking great." But Frozen was my favorite. I loved doing it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you were part of the deep knee squats during music, yes?
Yes.
We had Nikki Harris on last season, and I always remember her quote saying she would just pray that she would be able to finish those deep knee squats every night that they were doing them.
I mean, the rush though, when you're on stage, at least as a dancer, like the rush of it, we could have done those squats for the whole freaking show. I would have been fine.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, every time we've talked to someone about the Drowned World Tour, it always comes up, that the Drowned World Tour was, you guys were performing in Los Angeles and then you had to stop for a few days because of 9/11. Can you just kind of give us a little capsule moment of what that was like, because no one in the entire country knew what was going on and you guys had a show to put on,
Yeah, it happened that morning, and we canceled that show that night. And then the next morning, we got a call that we're going to close the show. We're going to do it. I think, and I believe she was the only performer that performed that day in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember us, getting into the circle and it being a really powerful ending. We took out all of the violence in the show. We took out the guns. We took out anything violent.
Oh,
we just
wow.
took everything violent out. And then I remember when we got into our huddle in the beginning, we didn't know who was going to show up, so she was like, even if no one shows up, let's just do this for love. The world needs this, that she was just giving a really strong positive message that really, really impacted all of us as a group. And we did that show on the 12th. And
Mm-hmm.
What did you
and she wore that, I think she wore the American flag as her kilt.
Yes.
And
mm-hmm.
was that oh no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It also was our last night. So, the last show of anything, you get to joke around
mm-hmm.
and you get to pull pranks. So we pulled a bunch of, even though it was our last show, even though the world was where it was, we just had to put a little light
mm-hmm.
in our own experience. And we just pulled so many pranks that night.
On each other?
And on her.
Is that all taken lightly? Do people after the show is over, are people haha, very funny? Or is it more of just if you do that again, I swear I will slap you?
Nah, mixed feelings.
So, Anthony, tell us, was there one country, one city that you visited and you got to see for the first time that really took your breath away during the Drowned World Tour? Especially, coming into town with the Madonna circus, everyone's waiting for you guys,
Well, and also because that was the first time she toured in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she was finally back on tour. I mean, I remember I saw her in the United States opening night in Philadelphia, and people were bonkers. I was through the roof and it was crazy. And I distinctly remember your flamenco, and people were losing their minds when you were dancing, because it was as if there was some sort of lightning in a bottle. Like you
Yeah.
just were like the speed at which you were like stomping on the dance floor. And I was like, I don't know how he's doing this. And people were clapping. And it was just like, it was crazy.
It sounded
Sorry,
like there
I
were
was fanning out.
microphones.
That was me
there were-
fanning out for a moment.
Anthony, it almost sounded like there were microphones on your, like the soles of your shoes. It was so good.
There were, and if you, there were.
Well, that explains it.
There you go.
And if you notice, like the tours after, I believe that a lot of like the intros and those little things, if anybody did any rhythms or tapping, they were pre-recorded because we learned so much. Like I had microphones on my palms for my castanets, on my shoes. They were attached to my shoe.
That's crazy.
And then when we did one of our texts, we had to change just the one block where I'm standing had to be changed so that the sound could be different. It was such a technical, it was really, really crazy. And she was like, oh my gosh, but we did it and we got through it. The production crew was incredible about getting it done. And, I don't know if she would do it again, but I got the opportunity to do that whole shit live.
Yeah.
And that was cool. It was fun. And going back, sorry, when you were talking about like coming to the States, when we were in Europe, when we kicked up in Europe, it's different because, it's not seating in the front. So everybody's just standing.
Oh, it's festival.
It's a big old mosh pit, a Madonna mosh pit.
Yeah. And then back to what you're saying, it's been so many years, right? So over there, like the supporters, the fans were just insane. Like I witnessed, I'm like doing Don't Tell Me and I'm seeing people getting carried out like that Michael Jackson kind of like really big. And I was like, oh, these people are excited. Like they're, and that was throughout Europe. Like when we got to the States, it was different at Philly, I must admit, even as like a performer, I was like, oh shit, that's right. We sitting over here. That's right. We in the States.
I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times I've been to a Madonna show, and like the moment the lights go out, if you're on the floor, which I'm always on the floor, you stand. And I remember I was like 5th row center for Confessions, and this couple behind me thought they were going to sit for the whole show. I'm like, you're at the wrong show. I'm like, you have 6th row center. You do not sit during a Madonna show. They were not happy. Also, we also you have other things that you've done beyond Drown World Tour. What were some of your highlights from post Madonna? Because you've worked with a lot of other great people as well. What are some of those highlights?
Prince, I did Bet You By Golly, the video with Prince, and Prince. I'm a hardcore Prince fan. Before Madonna, sorry.
No, it's
and so the fact that I got to work with him, and on this particular project, we kind of spent 7 days in Paisley Park, and it was just such a beautiful experience to be in that building and be in his world. And Prince it was just an amazing experience. Like that one, I love my solo in the Drown World Tour. I love M all day. But, and I was cool, but because I got to work with him before her. So it was super. So Prince, that experience being there with him for 7 days was incredible for me.
Wow, Prince.
Does working with people like Prince, like Madonna, how does that influence your personal work then? Do you take lessons from them and use that to infuse in your own work or like your own work ethic?
Yeah, as like for the past 13 years, I mean, all my life I've been a mentor or I work with young artists, and it's always been interesting to kind of when they're like, I want to be like Beyonce or I want to be this person, I just share with them just a little bit of reality that. So I got like my point is that I worked with Prince, I worked with Madonna, I was a fan, hard body, and still am. But then there was just like this line that I just had to like learn that they're human as well. They're not like gods. And they're, at least for me. And I just try to share it with the young artists now. And then with every experience I've had, I've learned so much. But I've also I saw myself in those. I was already experiencing those things, like when I did Drown World Tour, even watching how, the way they made choices or what they did. I
Mhm.
was already doing that in my own dance
Yeah.
company or in my own creations. So I was like, okay, I'm not that off.
Uh-huh.
She's doing that. That's how I work, you know. So that's been the fun part, like to work with artists and just see how they work, and then just say, okay, I'm not off, you know.
It was like a validation for your own self.
Yeah.
You also worked with fellow Madonna dancer / colleague / choreographer Luca Tomasini. Yeah, we had him on the podcast, and he's great, and he's got some amazing stories.
Yeah.
But how did you guys meet? And tell us about some of the work that you guys have done.
Right after I did the tour, I stood in LA for 2 months, and I was like, what am I going to do next? You know, like, what do you do after that?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my dance dream.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think I was going to get that. So after that, I actually didn't dance with anybody else. I didn't want to. I had an agent that was like trying to get me, you know, Britney was coming up and all this stuff. And I was like, nope, I'm done dancing. Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
Been there, done that. I don't need any more.
And then I got a call for like Luca Tomasini's company because he was doing a show called in Italy. And they said that Rafaela Carrà, who's a big star in Italy, loves flamenco and what, you know, we want you. And I was like, oh God, am I going to now get like pinned and I'm going to do like all flamenco gigs? I got that, and I got to work with Luca, and I was there for, you know, about 6 months, and it was wonderful to learn from him and create with him. And that he was beautiful. I absolutely adore him.
Yeah.
He was wonderful.
He has a great energy. I think it's awesome that you worked with Rafaela Carrà. What did you think of Madonna stealing her look for the God Control video last year?
Oh, that's good. I didn't think about that. That's a good one.
Right?
She didn't steal it, Tony. She didn't steal it. She paid homage to it. You know how Madonna does
it's
that.
the same thing.
It's homage.
Yeah.
So you also, besides your dancing, as you mentioned, you also are involved in music. Sorry, Tony. See, I'm going to say it every time I say it now.
Stop that.
Tony's just going to edit it out. So how did you start releasing music?
Boricua Lover was the first one, and that was with an independent label called Mixwax.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I kind of did it. For me, doing the music was to explore. It was to test. It wasn't like to get sales or to, in the beginning. I just kind of wanted to create. I've always been that kind of creative. I just want to create. And then I just started like doing residencies, and then I started releasing songs and selling them independently, and like, you know, and saying, okay, this song worked. For me, it was all a test. If I do this, what's the crowd going to like? Okay, the crowd likes this. Okay, the crowd likes that. Oh, I shouldn't do that song again. So I had a lot of original material, and then I just kind of really tested out throughout the years, but I started getting booked, and I did mall tours when mall tours were out. And, you know, did tons of performances in New York City, and I got to travel to China. And for me, just as an artist, to be able to go to China and sing for 2 weeks and just do my own material where nobody knew me, it was just a blessing to kind of explore and share that. So all of that has been like rehearsal and a process to just get to the next level and continue. So where I'm at recently is just finishing up like a Spanish album that over 15 years ago, people have been like, you know, just asking, hey, why don't you do Spanish? And I was like, no, I don't think in Spanish. I can write in Spanish and I can read, I can speak it, but I don't think in Spanish, you know. So, but this quarantine, the beginning of 2020, that January, I purposely also took like 3 weeks off of work and was like, I'm going to write this Spanish album in 3 weeks, like something. And then the pandemic came and it just gave me more time to write. And it gave me more time to really be in this zone that I was already getting into in the beginning of 2020. So I'm just looking forward to actually getting in the studio and finishing it up with, you know, with the musicians and stuff to release it. And let's see what happens.
What type of music, what type of vibe is it?
It's a Latin pop project. You know, there's like reggaeton undertones, but I'm not a rapper. I'm not a reggaeton. Like, I don't rhyme like that. I just kind of sing. So, you know, it's got dancey vibes to it. It's, you know, it's a little, I think, you know, I'm going to try something out. I'm going to explore.
Like Madonna, you have a bit of reinvention happening yourself. I think this sort of goes along with the Spanish album that you're doing. Tell us about this new is it a persona? Is it what
It's it's actually
how would you describe it?
Yeah.
it's a name that my friends. So it's something that when I was younger, I always kind of wanted to. I didn't like Anthony Rodriguez, you know, as a performance name. And then I kind of did research through Greek mythology. I was just doing research, and I found out about a Greek god named Antaeuz, with an S. And then it fit with. I don't know. I liked the name, and he was a god that beat Zeus. He was the only god that could beat Zeus. But he was short-lived because his power was from the earth, and Zeus figured it out after a couple of punches that he can, like, if you lift Antaeus off the earth, then he has no more power. So that's why his story is short. Zeus figured it out and got rid of him. But I loved the name, and it stood with me. And I would tell my friends it, and my friends were really supportive, like Marlene, and you know, we were all being creative when we were young. And my friends used to say it to me all the time. My brother, my family. And then not until maybe about 2 years ago in 2018, I said, let me just do like some English projects. I was like, let me release a record independently just to kind of put it out there once a month on the 18th of every month in 2018. And I did that, and I did it with the name. And no one has asked me yet, you know, if that's kind of like some kind of, you know, I don't know what the word is, but yeah, that's how that name came about. And that's how, and I'm just using it now. It just feels like another way to express myself. It's like it is like a different, you know, it's different. The songs are different. The way I'm writing is different. So it just like makes sense to kind of like just attach, you know, to this name and use it and see how it goes.
I wasn't sure if it was like your Prince moment when he went by the symbol.
I mean, it can be, but you know, it's the story.
And you've also done, so I know that you were very proud of the work that you've done with La Santa Luz Dance Company. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was like me and my friends. We started out as Holy Light when we were younger, and we would just do dance performances. And I did start performing and rehearsing in a church. My father was a deacon, and they allowed me to rehearse in the church. So as we were performing, like at Hot 97 and doing all these like festivals, they would be like, and now Holy Light. And it was cool. But then, I don't know, I started getting like requests, and they thought we were like a spiritual group or like, you know, like one of those kind of like, you know, dance groups that would just dance for the Lord, which I do dance for the Lord, but it just wasn't working out. I just didn't like the branding of it. I was like 16. When am I talking about branding of it at that time? But I was like, I didn't like the name. And then all of a sudden, I changed it just to Spanish, and I said, "Well, what's wrong, La Santa Luz?" And it just sounded prettier and nicer to anyone, any ethnicity. It was lovely to hear, and that's how the name, like, that's how that came about. But we did concerts throughout. When I started La Santa Luz, I was really young, and I was always, like I said before, seeking my own and creating my own opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I like met with the Bronx Council on the Arts, and I applied for a grant, and I got a grant to like choreograph and like create. And then from there, it just kind of led to the next thing. And at the Kit Kat Club where we did Café con Leche, even the owner there, he was like, "You're a really talented young man. I'd love to give you a night to do a show." And I got the club and packed it up, and it just kind of kept going with the dance company. And then once I started focusing on singing, I was going through this artistic battle within myself. You know, do I continue choreographing and dancing with this? Do I keep singing? Like, what do I want to do? And I spoke to many artists, and I got different advice. And the best thing was like, focus on one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. So with that, I took that and I said, I'm going to stop La Santa Luz for a little while, and I'm going to focus on writing and singing. So what I do with the company now is kind of like pop-up performances. There will be a concert soon because so many dancers have asked to revisit a lot of the work I choreographed, because they, you know, just with them sharing with me and me looking at the work, a lot of the work I choreographed as a young artist. And when I even watch some of the old work, I'm like, oh, wow, pretty cool for that 18-year-old to be thinking of those sequences and patterns. And, you know, it's kind of like looking back at it and being like, wow, okay. And then so many dancers that I've been able and blessed to work with and mentor that have come to New York that are like now doing so much work, from like choreographing for Beyonce. And just, it's just a really, I'm just so grateful for all the dancers I've met throughout this process as well, and have been a part of their life in however way I've inspired them. I was always mentoring without even knowing I was mentoring. I was just going with the flow of life and sharing.
Yeah.
But then, years later, just people emailing or texting, even to this day on IG, like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you,
Oh, that's great.
just supporting. But yeah, so Antaeuz still exists. It's just more like a little bit more of pop-up experiences now.
Right. So when it's finally safe for all of us to gather again for performances and whatnot, it's the return of La Antaeuz.
Possibly, yeah. Marlene harasses me enough to do it, so yeah, it will happen.
I know we've been speaking to so many dancers since we started the podcast, and I know since lockdown and the pandemic has started, everyone's been saying how much they miss being able to perform, and with Broadway being shut down for so long, and when is it going to be safe for us to go and see concerts again? And I know I think we're all very excited to be able to see a live performance again at some point very soon. Hopefully.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
me too.
Right.
Well, Stefan, is it time for my favorite part of the podcast?
I think it might be, Anthony. On every show with a special guest, we always do a little thing called the lightning round, which is questions that you will know very well. It's all about Madonna, and it's just to be wherever you're at in your Madonna journey right now, off the top of your head, without thinking. Favorite Madonna song?
I don't know. Oh man, Frozen came into my head really quick. I'm gonna just stick with it, but I want to say bedtime stories as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, I'll go with either of those. Favorite Madonna video?
Bedtime stories.
Now this, you might be a little particular on this one. Favorite Madonna tour?
Blonde Ambition. I saw that when I was young, and I remember just being in the audience and watching it, and I became a huge fan of Vince Patterson, the choreography, the movement. Yeah, Blonde Ambition.
Nice.
And then Drown World.
Yeah. Of course. Have you been able to see her after Drown World tour?
Yes, I have. It's been like, I got to see the one right after. I don't remember which one that was. Sorry, but I got to see that one in LA. I was invited to like the Friends and Family show, so
nice.
That was cool to witness like that. But I've seen everything. I saw Madam X. I saw everything after that. I have to go see it.
How is it seeing those shows? I mean, like having been on tour with her in these big elaborate shows and whatnot. Is it fun to be able to see it from the viewer perspective?
And also, how many people are in the audience for a Friends and Family show?
Oh, it's like 50 to 100 max.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is. It is super fun. I think, what was the one where they did La Isla and all the guys came out? I forgot which show that was. But anyway, it was fun to see it. But when I saw all the guys come out, I was piss drunk at that one. I had never been drunk. I always want to be able to watch everything. Mm-hmm. But that tour, the one where it was just like, I loved that show.
Yeah, the Sticky and Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So I was completely wasted. So I did not mean what I said to my friend, but I was completely wasted. So I turned over and I was like, aha, it took 10 guys to do that part. Because I was like my one little moment. But I love watching the show. And when I see her, I don't like to see her up close. I like to see it far away. I love the lights. I love the movement of, the choices that are made. So I really don't like watching her up close. But it's not that I don't want to see her.
What did you think of Madam X? Because that was such a departure from her huge productions that she'd been doing. Did you enjoy that she was scaling it back and doing like the smaller production?
I love everything she does. And I love the intimacy of that one. I really loved it. I enjoyed it. And look, Frozen was also one of my favorite sequences in that show.
So good.
So it was I was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. I liked that it was so intimate. It wasn't so raw, all that stuff.
It had a very different energy than her normal shows.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've derailed the lightning round.
Oh, sure.
Favorite Madonna look, and it can become from like a video, a tour, a photo shoot, in person.
What is that ad? Is it Versace where she's laying on the steps and she looks so...
Oh my God, that's everybody's favorite photo.
Literally, I think like the last 3 guests have said the same thing. It's one of my favorite photos of all time. But we just had Detox from RuPaul's Drag Race on, and she said she's the purple dress and the Versace on the stairs. It's such an iconic. That whole photo shoot is fucking brilliant. It's amazing.
I think I have that magazine here somewhere in my...
I got that magazine when it came out, and there was a pullout of that picture, and it was like 4 pages, and so you got like a mini Madonna poster. I love that picture. Oh my God, it's so good. I need to find... I'm not going to Mar-a-Lago, but I need to find a staircase just like that and like get a purple suit and like do the same thing.
Actually, I think there's one in the Bronx. Remember they shot the Joker there? You could just you could just go there.
No, but that's the staircase she's on in the Versace ad is it's curved and delicate. That staircase in the Bronx is that needs a little love in the Bronx. That staircase.
It sure does.
So Anthony, tell us and our listeners where they can find you on social media.
I'm on Instagram. It's at World of Antaeuz, Antaeuz. World of Antaeuz. That's where I'm on Instagram. That's at least where I would post anything I'm doing creatively, for sure.
Awesome.
So watch this space for that music.
Yes.
All right, guys. We want to say thank you to Anthony Rodriguez, aka Antonio, for coming on the MLVC podcast. This is great. We've been wanting to talk to you for a while.
I know. I'm glad we were able to finally make this happen. Thank you for taking the time.
Stefan and I are especially interested in the Drowned World tour because we feel like it's one of Madonna's more unique tours, and we love speaking to people that were creatively involved. So we appreciate you coming on.
That was my first Madonna show that I ever dressed up for. I dressed in the look that she had been on the cover of Entertainment Weekly. And because when she was coming to the United States, they were making a big, they showed pictures from the tour, and I was so excited. And I was like, I'm dressing up for this show. And that I like handmade a kilt, and I like put safety pins on a tattered t-shirt, and I smoky eyed and crazed up my hair. But I did the red tartan like she had in the European run. And then she comes out for the first show in Philadelphia, and she had changed the color to green. And I remember as she's coming out on that misty cloud for Substitute for Love, and everyone's cheering, I was like, fuck, she changed the color on me. And, it was, nobody noticed, but at the very end of that show, some little Nelly Queen was walking by me and says, he looks me up and down and turns and says, she changed the color on you, didn't she? And I was like, yeah, thanks. I noticed.
That's funny.
Gotta love a snarky Madonna fan at the Madonna concert.
Yes. gotta love.
Anyway, yeah, Anthony, I could say it again. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We love talking to you, and we love all of our listeners, and we're so excited that you guys listen to us every week and that we're able to bring you another fun show. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MLVC Podcast. You can also go to our landing page, mlvcpodcast.com, and you can listen to us wherever podcasts are available. Apple Podcasts and Google Play, and Spotify, and all of them. Yeah.
We're everywhere.
So anyway, we're everywhere. So we will see you guys soon. And we'll see you guys for the next episode.
Take care. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.